Hello, my name is Austin Newell, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make a 360 panoramic using a gazing globe you can buy offline or in stores. So let's hop into that right now. Okay, so this is a gazing globe that everyone seems to say that you can find in any lawn and gardening section. In fact, you're better off going to Amazon to find it. And I found this one for about 30 bucks. The only problem is it's got little imperfections in the glass where it's got ripples going through it. And I have one good side that is pretty blank, so that's the side I'll use. And I have an old tripod with a cup taped onto it because I haven't found any better way, but it does the job. So what you do, you set it where you're going to put the base of your spherical reflections, and what you're going to do is I put on the telephoto I have is 100 to 300 Canon, and you go far out as you can with that lens, and you're going to shoot into it, and you're going to shoot one side of the ball first. That'll give you 180 degrees field of view, so when you unwrap it you have one side of all these reflections, and then we'll go on the other side and get all the other reflections. Okay, so I got the camera set up. It's aiming at the gazing globe over there, and I'm not really sure how far back we are, but I got it to where it's framed up to where basically all you can see in the viewfinder is just the gazing globe. And what I'm going to do is shoot in RAW, so when you bring it into Photoshop you have all the colors you can still mess with, so it doesn't matter if it's overexposed now, you can always fix it later. Okay, so now I've just brought in my pictures. First thing I'm going to show you is I would recommend having some form of organization when you work on your projects. And so mine, going into pictures, and here's what I have specifically for when I'm making these environment maps. Is you go in environment, and I'll have the raw folder, and what the next thing we're going to do is crop and color correct them, and then we're going to need to unwrap them. So before we get too far into this, I just want you to know that you're going to need to have a program called HDR Shop. Now I know it used to be for free, I'm not sure if it is anymore, so you'll have to look that up, but I just want you to know you're going to need that program. So hopping in here to our RAWs, we'll just open up the first one. Okay, here all I do is just kind of like start to correct it and make it look a little bit better than it was. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I just try to make sure I try to get more detail in the highlights and then more detail in any shadows I might have over here. Okay, so that's about how I like it. So the next thing we're going to do is we need to crop it. So if you come over here, crop it all the way. Now what you want to do, there's a little trick with it, that HDR Shop, when it unwraps it, if you don't have these corners on the sides pinched off, then it kind of it messes with the image to where it's almost unusable on some spots of it because it stretches out and leaves like little white marks. So it's better to just pinch and lose some of it than all of it. So now it's cropped on all the sides. Okay, so now you can see all the sides are cropped. And so the next thing we're going to do is just click open image. It's going to throw it into Photoshop. And so now we're going to use the selection tool and just start selecting all these corners on the sides over here. Double click on your layer, just turn it into a layer so you can actually erase stuff. So just go through each corner, and which you just want to get the background out. You only want to have the sphere in your picture. You can make it as clean as you want. It doesn't have to be extremely clean, just make sure you just get as much background out of it as you can. Okay, so now you just have your ball with no background. That's all you need. So now, I pretty much work in just JPEGs whenever I save these out. So you want to go to your folder structure and go up to environment, and this is where you're going to save the you're going to save them in the cropped and corrected. So I'm just going to say this is the front, and I save it as JPEG. Save. Okay. So now I'm going to do the exact same thing with the next one, because you're supposed to take two pictures, one on each side. Okay, now you should have both your pictures, the front and the back. They're cropped and corrected to your liking. So now here's where we need to go into HDR Shop. Okay, so all you do is drag in. We'll start at the front. Click OK. Just zoom out so you can see it. Okay, so we're going to go to Image, Panorama, Panoramic Transformations, and go to Latitude, Longitude. Click OK. There it is, all stretched out. Now what I was talking about was making sure you had all the corners cut off, is you get this white leak where the seams are stretched out on the sides. But that's all you have to worry about. So now you're going to go over to Save As, and you save it as, whichever one you're comfortable with. I always end up with a JPEG anyways in the very end, so I just keep it a JPEG. And so this is where you're going to save it in the unwrapped folder now. So you should have 2 RAWs, 2 cropped and corrected, and then now you'll end up with 2 unwrapped. Okay, and exit that out, and just do the same thing to the back. Okay, so now you have your front and your back completely unwrapped, and now you can do this in either Photoshop or After Effects, but what we're going to do is we're going to stitch them together. So now we have 180 degrees on this side and 180 degrees on this side. When we stitch them together, that'll give us the full 360 degrees. Okay, so inside After Effects, you have both of your 2 pictures imported, and you can drag them into a new comp. Select both, drag them in. Just click OK. Go to Composition Settings, and you're just going to widen it up so you have more space to work with. Okay, so we'll just drag the front over to the left, drag the back over to the right, and you can kind of see where they kind of overlap a bit. So it looks like these 3 bushes right here are the same as these 3 right here. So if you go to the front and you just drop the opacity like 70% and then just drag it over, you can find the overlap. So kind of right there. Zoom in a little further and fine tune it, but drop the opacity a little more. But yeah, you can see that's right where they line up. Okay. So what we're going to do is select the front. We're just going to cut a piece of that one off. And then subtract it and feather it. Now there is warping in the ball, and so there are going to be some things that don't line up, and you can go and fine tune it, but a lot of times it doesn't really matter. Okay, so now we have a clean, you can kind of tell that these are a little bit 2 different colors, and so what you can do is go into, like the front one looks a little bit light, and just go into color correction, go to levels, and kind of just darken it up a bit, and now it blends a lot better. We'll put that feathering, maybe 50. Okay. So now we have a decent blend going on right here, but we want to get rid of this spot over here, and when we wrap into a ball, we need it to loop. So let's look at the whole thing. So now, what we can do is take the back image, duplicate it, bring it above the front image, slide it over, and we're going to do the same thing we did the first time. We're going to try to find a piece where it blends. Okay, so it looks like it kind of overlays right here. There's a little problem with the warping, but that looks about right there maybe. So turn the opacity back up. And on this back image, we'll cut that in half, subtract it, feather it. Okay, so now we have a decent blend here. It's alright. And so now we have too much of the image. We have basically 3 sets of us taking the picture. We only need 2, and these 2 are actually the same. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to widen up this composition a little bit more. Is we're going to look at our image, and I'm going to have it loop. Take this tool right here, and this is the comp size. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have it start looping right at us. So zoom in there, see if I can get the very pixel. So about where these 3 people, us taking the picture, ends. So that means over here we shouldn't be in the shot at all. So we zoom in on it. Okay. And we'll bring the layer up a bit. And I'll bring it up just a smidge because we have some missing pixels over here. So composition, crop to region of interest. Oh, looks like it didn't get covered up all the way. So we'll just go to the edge here. I don't know what happened to it, but we'll go to the edge over here and do it again. Just get it right on the edge of that person. And you're going to go to composition, crop the region of interest. So now this should be a full 360 panoramic of the whole entire environment. And a little way that I do to test it is I take the comp that we made, put it in, you pre-compose it or just drag it into another comp so it's on its own. And you're going to go into your effects over here and type CC sphere. I spelled it wrong. CC sphere. Drag it on there. Open up the lighting and shading, and you're going to make ambient 100, diffuse 0. So now that just gets rid of like the 3D parameters where it has shading and lighting. Now you're just looking at the flat image wrapped into a ball. So you go into your rotation and start going along the y-axis, and you can pretty much see it's a seamless 360 degree panoramic. All this did was wrap into a ball, and so if there are any seams, you're going to be able to see them here. And so I can kind of tell like there's color correction problem there where one side is a little bit lighter than the other, but that's why this helps. You can see these problems when it's wrapped into a ball. Okay, so you can get rid of that. And now what we're going to do is get rid, more than likely when you do this, you're going to have people in here, you taking the picture or the shadow of the ball itself. So again, this is something you can do in Photoshop or in After Effects. I'm more comfortable in After Effects. Take the clone tool over here, double click, and you can just go in here and just get rid of them. So alt click somewhere, just clean pixels, and just start painting over them. Okay, all gone there. We'll get the ones on the other side. Okay, so now you have your whole image. It is a 360 degree field of view panoramic, and it seams perfectly, like it loops perfectly, and you no longer have the people in the photo or the shadow of it. So now all you gotta do is just go to composition over here and make sure everything's settled right. So now it looks clean. Go to composition, save frame as file, and you can save it as anything you want. Again, mine always end up in JPEG, so I just save them as JPEG. And here's where I just go into my pictures, go into environment, and just on the top level of the environment structure, I just call it the environment. And hit render. Okay, that's it for this tutorial. Click here to subscribe, and if you're interested, here's a couple more tutorials. Thanks for watching.